In this video, you create a timber moulding profile for a window by directly sketching the profile outline and adding dimensions. Family parameters are then added for key dimensions. You then load your newly created profile into a window family ready for use. A profile family has two reference planes in the default template which defines the origin or insertion point. When the profile is used within a project, the profile can be flipped, rotated and offset. However, you should consider the most appropriate point for insertion. Note that some of the dimensions do not have a parameter assigned but are constrained or locked. This is ideal for dimensions that should not change or vary. Additional reference planes are not required when creating a profile family. The dimensions and constraints can be applied directly to the sketch. We'll begin by creating our new profile family. On the Revit home screen, let's select New Family. In the New Family Select Template File dialog, we'll begin by selecting our profile.rft template. However, you can see that other profile templates are available for specific reasons. For example, if we were creating a rail or stair nosing or reveal, we have dedicated template files to help us with these types of profile family. In our example, we'll select profile.rft and then select Open. We're now in the Family Editor, and you can see here that we have two reference planes already defined for us. The intersection of these two reference planes by default defines the origin. We can select any two other reference planes to redefine that origin if required. Let's now begin to sketch out our profile shape. When creating profiles, it's not a requirement to use reference planes, so we can directly sketch the shape we want and then constrain and add dimensions to the line work. To begin, on the Create ribbon, let's go ahead and select Line. On the Place Lines context ribbon, you'll note here in the Draw panel we have various different tools to create different shapes as appropriate. In our example here, we simply use the Line tool to create our profile shape. Let's begin by sketching the profile thickness. So we'll snap to the intersection of the two reference planes. We'll point the mouse directly up, and the first size we're looking for here is 3/4 of an inch. So let's now enter that value in and then press Enter. We'll then zoom in. And here we can continue with our profile. We'll point the mouse to the right and set this value to 1 inch. We now have to define a little rebate family here, and this is going to be 1/8 of an inch square. So we'll point the mouse down and enter 1/8 of an inch, and then to the right, and again enter 1/8 of an inch. To complete the rebate, we can take the mouse up here, and you'll notice that we now find the intersection and vertical, so we can simply snap here. Again, point the mouse to the right, and here we'll enter another inch. And at this point, I'm going to stop drawing the profile. We now need to define an angle. The angle is going to be best formed by utilising just geometry, just snapping to endpoints. So to stop drawing, we'll press Escape. Of course, we're still in the Line tool, so we can now start to redraw on the bottom point here. So let's go ahead and snap to this endpoint, and we'll now define the profile width. This is going to be 6 inches. So again, we can point the mouse to the right and enter 6 inches. We'll then zoom out a little here. We have a vertical line to draw in this area here. This is going to be 3/8 of an inch. And now we can finalize our angle by snapping to this endpoint here. And our profile has now been sketched. We now need to constrain and dimension the profile. Before we do this, let's go ahead and change the scale. On the View Control bar, we'll select Scale, and here we'll set this to 12 inches to 1 foot. We can now start to add the dimensions as required. On the Quick Access toolbar, let's select Aligned Dimension. And I'll begin here by selecting the horizontal reference plane and then dimensioning to the top of my profile, and then placing out the dimension. I'll then place another dimension from the vertical reference plane to the first line of the rebate, and again we'll place out that dimension. We can then start to dimension the rebate itself. So here I'll select the top line and the bottom line of the rebate, and again place out that dimension. We'll select the two vertical lines on the rebate, and again place out that dimension. We now need to dimension the last part of the profile here. So we'll select this line and this intersection, and again, place the dimension. To dimension the entire profile width, we can select this reference plane here, and then this vertical line at the end of the profile, and then place out our dimension. And finally here, we'll control the end of the profile by selecting this horizontal reference plane and the intersection between the two lines here. And we'll place out that dimension. Let's now release the dimension command. So on the context ribbon, we'll select the modify button. We can now start to add parameters to some of the key dimensions. Let's begin by setting the profile width. We'll select this dimension here, and on the context ribbon in the label dimension panel, we can select create parameter. The parameter type is going to remain at default, which is the family parameter. For the name, we'll type in profile width. You'll note that the discipline and length are grayed out, and of course we're going to group parameter under dimension, and we'll use the default of type and click OK. We'll also add a parameter for the profile thickness. So let's select this dimension over here. Once again, on the context ribbon in the label dimensions panel, we'll select create parameter, and we'll enter the name profile thickness, and again select OK. The final parameter that we need to define is going to be the rebate size. So here we'll select this dimension, hold the control key down, and also select this dimension here. So both of these dimensions control the overall size of the rebate. Again, we'll go up to the context ribbon in the label dimensions panel and select create parameter. For the name, we'll enter rebate size and select OK. Of course, that parameter is now applied to both of those dimensions simultaneously. Now the other dimensions are going to be fixed, and to make sure that they don't change, we can constrain them. So let's begin by selecting this dimension here, and you'll notice that we can actually constrain that dimension by locking the padlock. We'll do the same thing for the 1 inch dimension here, and again we'll lock the padlock. Same here, and we'll lock that. Another thing we have to consider is if I actually change the profile thickness, this line is going to move up or down, and I also want this line to move up or down. So I need to make sure that these two lines are constrained together and aligned. To do this, on the modify ribbon, on the modify panel, we can select align. We'll begin by selecting this line here, and then this line here, and we can place an alignment constraint by clicking the padlock. So we're now ready to test our profile. To do this, we'll go ahead on the modify context ribbon, and in the properties panel, we'll select family types. We'll now notice our dimensions that we've just set up. Perhaps we'll change the order of these, so I want the profile width to be the first thing we see. So I'll select profile width, and then in the bottom of the dialog, I'll simply move the parameter up. So let's now see what happens if we change the profile thickness to 1 inch. So we'll select the profile thickness value and enter 1 inch, and then select apply. We can clearly see that the whole profile has reacted to that change, and nothing else has changed here. Let's now set the profile width. Let's set this to 5 inches, again just to test this, and click apply. Again, we can see that all of the family elements update accordingly. Finally, we'll test the rebate size. So we'll set the rebate size to perhaps 1/4 inch, and again, select apply. So let's now create a couple of family types here. So up on the top of the dialog here, we'll select new type. Our first type will be 6 inches by 1 inch. We can then set the profile width to 6 inches. And here the profile thickness can remain at 1 inch. We'll leave the rebate at 1/4 inch. And we'll then create another additional family type. So we'll click on new type again. This will be 5 inches by 1/2 inch. So we'll type that in as the name and click OK. And again, we can change the profile width to 5 inches and the profile thickness to 1/2 inch, and we'll update the rebate size to 1/8 inch. To test the two family types, we'll move the dialog over to the right hand side. We'll start off by using the 6 by 1 inch and clicking apply. And then we'll set 5 inch by 1/2 inch and again click apply. And we can clearly see that all of those dimensions have driven accordingly. We'll then select OK to the Family Types dialog. And finally, just prior to saving this, to make sure that we get a good thumbnail, we'll actually hide all of the annotation elements. To do this, we'll select the View ribbon, and in the Graphics panel, we'll select Visibility Graphic Overrides. We'll then select the Annotation Categories tab, and here you can see that we can switch off the entire category by unchecking Show Annotation Categories in this view. We'll then select OK, and you can see here we have a nice clean view that will become our thumbnail. We can now save our profile family. On the Quick Access toolbar, let's select Save. And we'll give this a name, Timber Molding Profile. Of course, this is a Revit family file, and we can then select Save. Okay, our profile family is now complete.